The decisions you make in the next 90 days will determine whether your children inherit struggle or security. Generational wealth is not luck. It is not inheritance. It is not an accident. It is a system, a blueprint that repeats itself across generations. And right now, you're either building it or preventing it. This audiobook is that blueprint. In the next hour, you will learn exactly what separates families that build generational wealth from those that stay trapped in the cycle. Are you starting from zero? Good. Zero is honest. Zero is where power begins. Let's go. Chapter 1. Stop waiting for permission to build. Listen to me. Right now, at this exact moment, you want to build something. A side business. An investment. A real estate deal. A savings plan. Something that would change your family's trajectory. And you're not doing it. You know why? You're waiting for permission. Not permission from a boss or a parent, though that's part of it. You're waiting for permission from yourself. You're waiting for the right time. You're waiting for enough money. You're waiting until you feel ready. You're waiting for someone to validate that you're smart enough, experienced enough, worthy enough to begin. Here's the truth that will change your life. Permission is a luxury you cannot afford. Your family cannot wait for your comfort. Let that sink in. Right now, somewhere, a kid is going to inherit struggle because their parent waited. They waited for the economy to improve. They waited for their boss to give them a raise. They waited until they had all their ducks in a row. And while they waited, compound growth happened to someone else's family. While they waited, someone else's children inherited assets. While they waited, 3 generations of wealth-building opportunity passed them by. You are not going to be that person. Not anymore. The permission trap is real. It's designed. It's everywhere. And it's costing you everything. Most people don't start building wealth until they feel ready. But here's what they don't understand. Readiness is a feeling, not a fact. The wealthiest people you know did not wait until they felt ready. They were terrified. They were uncertain. They had less money than you do right now. But they moved anyway. That's the difference. Not intelligence. Not luck. Movement. Think about someone starting to invest at age 25. They put in $50 a month. That's it. Nothing fancy. $50. Most people think that's not enough to matter. It's embarrassing. It's pointless. So they don't do it. They wait until they can invest $500 a month. Except when they finally have enough, they're 35. A full decade late. Let me show you what that costs. Person A, $50 a month for 30 years, starting at age 25. Average market return of 8% annually. By age 55, they have approximately $1.1 million. Let me say that again. $1.1 million from $50 a month. From the permission they gave themselves to start small. Person B waits until age 35. Invests $500 a month for 20 years. Total invested is actually higher, $120,000 versus $18,000. But because they waited for the comfortable amount, they only reached $240,000 by age 55. Same person. Same discipline. Different starting age. The difference is $860,000. That's not the investment difference. That's the compound growth difference. That's the cost of waiting for permission. And that's just their own lifetime. Multiply that across 2 more generations, their children and their grandchildren, and you're talking about generational poverty disguised as bad luck. This is not about luck. This is about timing. And you control your timing. Here's what you need to understand about the system that surrounds you. Banks don't want you to start investing small. Employers don't want you to build a side business. Financial institutions don't want you to understand wealth building early. Why? Because the system profits from your waiting. The system profits from your doubt. The system profits from you staying inside the lines they've drawn for you. When you wait, they win. When you hesitate, they profit. When you decide you're not ready yet, they rest easy, knowing another generation has just been trapped in the cycle. But the moment, and I mean the moment, you realize that waiting costs you more than acting, everything changes. Your entire perspective shifts. You stop asking for permission. You stop waiting for comfort. You stop seeking validation. You start moving. Every month you delay costs your children's children thousands of dollars in compound growth. That's not hyperbole. That's math. That's a fact. A single month of delay at the beginning of a 30-year investment compounds into thousands, sometimes tens of thousands, in lost growth 1 month. 30 years from now, your grandchild will be $10,000 poorer because you waited 1 more month to start. Is your comfort worth that? Is waiting for the right time worth that? I don't think so. Now, here's the critical part that most people miss. The system, your job, your culture, and your family's history have been designed to make you doubt yourself. It's intentional. Employers pay you just enough that you feel stable, but not so much that you feel empowered to leave. Banks offer you credit at high interest, so you can consume now and pay later. Cultural narratives tell you that building wealth is for other people, smarter people, richer people, more fortunate people. Not you. These are lies. They're not stupid lies. They're sophisticated, profitable lies. They work because they feel true. They feel true because everyone around you believes them too. But you're listening to this audiobook, which means you're already starting to see through them. You're already beginning to understand that the system's narrative is not the truth. The truth is, generational wealth is not reserved. It's not special. It's a system. And you can access it. Right now. Without permission. Not tomorrow. Not when you have more money. Not when you feel more ready. Not when you get external validation. Right now. So here's what happens tonight. Don't overthink this. Don't analyze it to death. Don't wait until you feel perfect clarity. That clarity will come through action, not before it. I want you to identify one wealth-building action you've been delaying. Just one. It could be opening a high-yield savings account. It could be starting a side business. It could be buying your first index fund. It could be negotiating a raise. It could be researching rental properties. It could be setting up a 401k if you haven't already. Just one action. Write it down. Don't keep it in your head. Write it down physically. Make it real. Make it specific. I will open an investment account is not specific. I will open a Vanguard brokerage account and invest $100 this week is specific. Then, and this is critical, commit to it this week. Not this month. This week. Not when the conditions are perfect. Not when you feel absolutely ready. This week. The conditions will never be perfect. Readiness never arrives fully formed. You move first. Readiness follows. Generational wealth starts with someone saying yes before they're ready. That someone is you. Tonight. No permission required. That's the entire chapter. That's the entire truth. You don't need approval. You don't need more money. You don't need to wait. You need to move. You need to understand that every day of delay is a day your family loses forever. You've accepted the permission trap. You've believed the system's narrative. You've waited for comfort. But not anymore. You've made a decision. You've written down your action. You've committed to this week. You've stopped waiting. Now that you understand the cost of permission, we need to talk about something deeper, the doubt that keeps that permission trap in place. That doubt is not random. That doubt is designed. And in the next chapter, we're going to dismantle it completely. We're going to show you exactly why your skepticism is the system's best weapon against you. Chapter 2, The Wealth Blueprint, 3 Pillars That Never Change. You've made your decision. You've rejected the permission trap. You're ready to move. But before you take action, you need a map. You need to understand the system. And the system, the actual system that builds generational wealth, is simpler than you think. Most people believe wealth building is complex. They think it requires special knowledge, insider connections, Ivy League degrees, or luck. So they stay frozen, waiting to understand it fully before they begin. This is a trap. The system is not complex. It's actually remarkably simple. But simplicity is dangerous because it removes your excuses. There are 3 pillars. 3. Not 10. Not 100. 3 pillars that, when stacked together, create generational wealth. Every wealthy family you know uses these 3 pillars. Some intentionally, some accidentally, but they all use them. And the moment you understand them, your entire strategy becomes clear. Pillar 1 is income architecture. Here's what most people have: one income stream. They have a job. That job pays the money. That money gets spent. Life repeats. Nothing changes. No wealth is built. Nothing is transferred to the next generation. That's not a life plan. That's a trap disguised as normalcy. One income stream is slavery. 2 income streams are a choice. Listen to that distinction carefully. With one income, you are dependent. You are vulnerable. Your entire family's security rests on one employer, one boss, one paycheck. If that paycheck disappears, everything collapses. You have no options. You have no flexibility. You have no power. That's slavery, modern, comfortable slavery, but slavery nonetheless. 2 income streams change everything. Income architecture means this: your primary income, your job, pays your bills. It keeps your family fed. It keeps your house standing. It's your foundation. But it does not build wealth. That's not its job. Its job is stability. Your secondary income is where wealth is built. This could be a side business, freelance work, rental income, affiliate commissions, digital products, consulting. It doesn't matter what it is. What matters is this: your secondary income is captured and invested. It does not get spent. It gets converted into assets. Let me give you a real example so this lands. Person A earns $60,000 a year from their job. They spent all $60,000. Year after year. Same pattern. Same result. Nothing compounds. Nothing is built. They reach retirement with Social Security and nothing else. Person B earns $60,000 a year from their job. They also built a side business that generates $15,000 a year. The $60,000 pays all their bills, the same lifestyle as Person A. But that $15,000? That $15,000 is captured. It's invested. It's converted into assets. Over 30 years, even growing modestly, that $15,000 a year becomes a foundation of wealth. Meanwhile, Person A has nothing. Same primary income. Different secondary income. Completely different outcome. That's income architecture. That's the first pillar. Now you might be thinking, I don't have time for a side income. That's a lie. You do have time. You have time for Netflix. You have time for scrolling. You have time for complaining about your circumstances. You just don't have the priority. Priority can be changed. Priority is a choice. You don't need more time. You need a different decision about how you spend the time you have. This is not judgment. This is clarity. The people building wealth are not busier than you. They're not smarter than you. They've just made a different choice about how they spend their time. That choice is available to you tonight. But income architecture alone doesn't build generational wealth. You need the second pillar. Pillar 2 is asset accumulation. Here's the brutal truth about income. It stops when you stop working. You can't work forever. Your body fails. Your energy fades. Your job ends. The day you stop working, your income stops. Unless you have assets. An asset is something that produces income without your daily presence. That's the definition. Real estate produces rental income while you sleep. A dividend-paying stock produces income while you sleep. A business with systems produces income while you sleep. Intellectual property produces income while you sleep. Most families have no assets. They have expenses. They own things that cost them money: cars, electronics, homes with mortgages that exceed the value. These are not assets. These are burdens. An asset lightens your load. An expense increases it. Assets are your family's inheritance. Expenses are your family's burden. Think about that contrast. When you die, do you want to leave your children a house with a mortgage? Or a house that's paid off and generates rental income? Do you want to leave them in debt? Or do you want to leave them dividend-paying stocks that produce income every single month forever, without them lifting a finger? The difference between families that last 3 generations and families that crumble is this: some families understand the difference between assets and expenses. Most don't. Let me show you the math. You have $10,000. You have a choice. Option 1, you buy a used car. You spend $10,000. The car depreciates. By year 5, it's worth $3,000. You've lost $7,000. This is an expense. Option 2, you invest $10,000 in dividend-paying stocks. You collect dividends of roughly $400 a year. Over 30 years, with compound growth and reinvestment, that $10,000 becomes $100,000 plus. This is an asset. Same $10,000. Completely different outcomes. One builds a burden. One builds wealth. One destroys generational potential. One creates it. That's the key. Your life is the sum of these decisions. Not the big ones. The small ones. 10,000 here. 5,000 there. These tiny asset decisions, repeated consistently, create generational wealth. But here's what stops people. They look at their situation and think, I can't afford to buy assets. I barely have money for my bills. This is honest. It's also incomplete. Because the answer is not to wait until you can afford assets. The answer is to restructure your life so that you can. This is where income architecture connects to asset accumulation. You build a secondary income. That secondary income is not spent on lifestyle. It's converted into assets. Small assets compound into large assets. Large assets compound into generational wealth. You're starting to see how this works. But there's a third pillar. And without it, wealth dies. Pillar 3 is knowledge transfer. This is the pillar that most wealthy families understand, but most people overlook completely. You can build a fortune. You can accumulate assets. You can create income streams. But if your children don't know how you did it, if they don't understand the principles, the discipline, the delayed gratification, that wealth will be gone in 1 generation. Gone. Studies show that 70% of families lose their wealth by the 2nd generation. 7 out of 10. That's not bad luck. That's ignorance. The children inherit money but not the knowledge to maintain it. So they spend it. They make poor decisions. The wealth evaporates. Money without knowledge is temporary. Knowledge without money is potential. Together, they become generations. This means something specific. You must teach your children about assets. You must show them how you built. You must involve them in your financial decisions. You must let them see the connection between discipline now and freedom later. You must transfer not just the money, but the blueprint. This happens through conversation, through involvement, through modeling, not through lectures, but through living. Show your kids your investments. Explain why you made them. Let them watch you turn income into assets. Let them see the compound growth happening in real time. Let them understand by watching you that generational wealth is built on boring, consistent, invisible actions repeated over decades. The 3 pillars are complete. Income architecture, asset accumulation, knowledge transfer. Every wealthy family uses all 3. Every family that loses wealth ignores at least one. You now understand the system. You understand that it's not complex. You understand that it's not reserved for special people. You understand that it's available to you. The question is no longer whether you can do this. The question is whether you will. You've rejected permission. You've learned the system. But the system has enemies. It has people and forces working against it. They want you to stay small. They want you to stay ignorant. And they're incredibly good at their job. In the next chapter, we're going to expose exactly what those forces are and what they cost your family. Chapter 3: The Hidden Cost of Staying Average. You understand the 3 pillars now. You know what needs to happen. But before you move forward, I need you to see something. I need you to see the actual cost of not building. Not the theoretical cost. The real cost. The generational cost. Most people choose average. They don't choose it consciously. They don't wake up and say, I will be average. It happens through 1,000 small decisions. It happens through habit. It happens through the path of least resistance. And they think it's safe. They think it's normal. They don't realize it's expensive. Let me show you what the average costs. What average costs across 3 generations. Imagine 2 people. Both earn $50,000 a year. Both have the same job. Same salary. Same stability. Same employer. But they make different choices. Person A, the average person, earns $50,000 and spends $50,000. This pattern repeats for 40 years. 40 years. Same income. Same spending. No assets. No investments. No secondary income. Just income in, spending out. After 40 years, they have nothing. Social Security. That's it. Person B earns $50,000 and saves 20% of it. That's $10,000 a year. They invest that $10,000 consistently for 40 years. Let's say it grows at 8% annually, a conservative market return. After 40 years, they have approximately $2.3 million in assets. Not from earning more. Not from being smarter. From being disciplined with about 20% of their income. The difference is not $2.3 million earned. The difference is $800,000 in total savings plus $1.5 million in compound growth. That's what discipline builds. But here's what matters for generational wealth. Person A's children will likely be average too. They'll learn that income gets spent. They'll learn that building is not normal. They'll repeat their parents' pattern. Meanwhile, Person B's children will inherit not just $2.3 million but the knowledge of how to build it. They'll understand assets. They'll understand delayed gratification. They'll understand that time compounds your decisions. Average choices are invisible because everyone makes them. That's exactly why they're expensive. This is crucial. You don't see average as expensive because everyone around you is average too. Your friends are average. Your family is average. Your coworkers are average. So average feels normal. It feels safe. Everyone's doing it, so it must be right. But normal doesn't mean free. Normal is expensive. It's just invisible. Think about your own community. Everyone you know is probably making roughly the same amount of money. Everyone's probably in roughly the same amount of debt. Everyone's probably experiencing roughly the same level of financial stress. You don't notice the expense because it's universal. But notice this. No one in that community is building generational wealth. No one. That's not an accident. That's the cost of the average. The comparison trap that disguises itself as success. Here's how the system keeps you average without you noticing. You compare yourself to people at your exact income level, not to people building wealth. To people like you. And compared to them, you feel successful. 2 people earn $80,000 a year. Person A buys a car for $600 a month. It's a nice car. It makes them feel successful. Everyone at their income level has a car like this. Person A compares themselves to others at $80,000 and thinks they're doing great. Person B also earns $80,000. But Person B drives a paid-off car from 10 years ago. It's not impressive. It doesn't make them feel successful. But Person B invests that $600 a month instead of spending it. Over 20 years, Person B has invested $144,000. With compound growth, that's roughly $500,000 in assets. Person A has a used car and a car payment. Person B has $500,000. They earned the same amount. They compared themselves to the same reference group. Person A felt like they were winning. Person A was actually losing. That's the trap. If everyone around you is struggling, you're measuring yourself against the wrong mirror. This is not a judgment of Person A. This is clarity. The comparison that makes you feel successful is the comparison that keeps you poor. You need to compare yourself not to your peers, but to your potential. Not to people like you, but to people building generational wealth. And when you do that comparison, the gaps become clear. The gap is not income. The gap is behavior. The gap is discipline. The gap is the 20% that's invested instead of spent. The gap is invisible until you know to look for it. The real deadline: time is your non-renewable resource. Here's what most people don't fully grasp. Money is renewable. If you spend $10,000, you can earn another $10,000. But time is not renewable. The years you don't spend building wealth are gone forever. You cannot buy those years back. A 25-year-old who waits until 35 to start building wealth doesn't just lose 10 years. They lose exponentially more than that. Because compound growth is exponential. It's not linear. Let me show you the actual math. Person A starts investing $500 a month at age 25. Person B waits until age 35 and invests $500 a month. Same monthly amount. Same annual contributions. But Person A invests for 40 years. Person B invests for 30 years. At age 65, Person A, who started at 25, has approximately $1.4 million. Person B, who started at 35, has approximately $750,000. Same monthly investment. 10-year difference in starting age. $650,000 difference in outcome. That's not earned. That's compounded. And this calculation doesn't account for the difference in what they pass on to their children. Person A's children inherit $1.4 million and the knowledge to build more. Person B's children inherit $750,000 and regret that their parent waited. Every month you delay costs your family more than any single financial decision you'll make in your working life. This is the hidden cost. It's not dramatic. It doesn't show up as a bill. It shows up 30 years later as a gap between the life your family could have had and the life they actually have. You're probably thinking about someone right now. Someone in your life who has it all figured out. Someone who earns a good income and seems successful. I want you to imagine a different version of that person. A version who started building wealth 5 years earlier. Or 10 years earlier. How different would their life be? How much more security? How much more freedom? That could be you. But it requires making decisions today that feel uncomfortable. It requires choosing differently from everyone around you. It requires understanding that average is expensive, even though the cost is invisible. This is not about making more money. This is about understanding that waiting costs more than acting. You've now seen the cost. You've seen what average produces. You've seen what compound growth looks like over generations. The question is, are you going to stay in that system? Or are you going to exit it? Most people, when they see this information, feel a moment of clarity. Then they return to their lives and resume their average pattern. They understand the cost, but don't change their behavior. This happens because understanding is not the same as commitment. You need something more. You need a specific plan. You need action architecture. In the next chapter, we're going to build your income architecture. We're going to show you exactly how to create multiple streams of income without being exceptional. We're going to take the fear out of it. We're going to make it practical. Chapter 4: Income Architecture: Building the Foundation. You understand the cost now. You understand what's at stake. But understanding is useless without a plan. So let's build one. Let's start with the foundation of everything: income. Not just income, architecture. The strategic structure that allows you to build multiple income streams without burnout, without complexity, and without pretending to be someone you're not. Most people have one income. They wake up. They go to their job. They collect a paycheck. They spend the paycheck. The cycle repeats. That one income supports their entire lifestyle. Every dollar of discretionary spending depends on that job. Every financial decision rests on that job continuing forever. That's not a plan. That's fragility disguised as security. But income architecture is different. Income architecture means intentionally designing multiple income streams, with a specific purpose for each. You're not trying to become a hustler or a workaholic. You're not trying to work 80 hours a week. You're restructuring how your money comes in so that your family is never dependent on a single source. Your job is a tool. Most people use it like a toy. Think about how most people approach their job. They stay for years. They accept small raises. They don't negotiate aggressively. They don't move companies to jump their salary. They don't develop rare skills that command premium pay. They treat their job as a given, as if it's not something they can optimize. This is a massive mistake. Your primary income from your job should consistently increase. Not eventually. Not when your boss notices your good work. Now. This year. If you're not earning more than you earned last year, you're losing money to inflation. You're falling behind. You're making a choice to be poor. Here's what this actually looks like. Negotiate your salary aggressively. If you don't get the raise you ask for, start interviewing at other companies. Companies pay more to new hires than they pay to existing employees. This is a fact. Use this. Move companies every 2 to 3 years if it means a 15 to 20% salary increase. Some people stay at the same job for 10 years and earn 20% more total. Other people change companies every 2 years and earn 100% more in the same time frame. Same skill level. Different approach. Develop skills that command premium pay. If you're in tech, specialize in AI or security. If you're in sales, master predictive analytics. If you're a manager, develop leadership certifications that are rare. Don't just do your job. Do your job better than anyone else in your market. That creates leverage. That creates negotiating power. That creates income growth. Your job should be constantly improving, or you should be constantly leaving. This doesn't mean you're disloyal. It means you're strategic. It means you understand that companies are strategic about their budgets. You need to be strategic about yours. Most people are passive about their primary income. Active people build wealth. Passive people stay average. But the job is only the foundation. The job pays bills. The job creates stability. But the job does not build wealth. That's where the secondary income comes in. The secondary income builds while you sleep. This is where most people stop. They have a job. They're stable. They think, why do I need more? Because your job requires your presence. Your job requires your time. Your job is time traded for money. The moment you stop working, the money stops. That's not wealth. That's employment. A secondary income is different. A secondary income is something you build that requires less and less of your time as it grows. It could be a side business, freelance work, rental income, digital products, affiliate commissions, a service you provide that scales. The form doesn't matter. What matters is this: it doesn't require your constant presence. Most people say, I don't have time for a side business. Let me be direct. That's a lie. You have time. You have time for Netflix. You have time for 4 hours of social media a week. You have time for scrolling. You have time for complaining about your situation. You just don't have the priority. If you don't have time to build a second income, you don't have time to build generational wealth. Period. That's not harsh. That's clear. Building a secondary income doesn't require 40 hours a week. It requires 5 to 10 hours a week, consistently, for the first year. That's it. 5 to 10 hours. Out of 168 hours in a week. Here's a realistic example. You decide to start a freelance business in your field. You spend 5 hours a week building clients, delivering work, and growing. In year 1, you generate $1,000 per month. Not life-changing. But $1,000 a month is $12,000 a year, which was not there before. That $12,000 goes directly to assets. It gets invested. By year 2, as you develop a reputation in systems, you're generating $2,000 a month with the same 5 hours a week. By year 3, you've built referral relationships, and you're generating $3,000 a month with less time required because the business is now working for you. That's not luck. That's architecture. That's systematic growth. Or consider real estate. You put 20% down on a $300,000 rental property. That's $60,000. But you're controlling a $300,000 asset that generates $1,500 a month in positive cash flow. 70% of that goes to the mortgage. 30% is yours. That's $450 a month from one property. But a single person can manage 3 to 5 rental properties without it being a full-time job. Now you're generating $1,500 to $2,000 a month from assets that work while you sleep. Your job is a tool. Most people use it like a toy. This applies to your secondary income too. Most people start a side business and never systematize it. They do all the work themselves. When they work, money comes in. When they stop working, money stops. That's employment, not income architecture. Income architecture means this: you build a system. The system generates income. Your role becomes managing the system, not working in it. This is the difference between a business and a job. A job is you selling your time. A business is a system that sells value without requiring your constant presence. The strategic path forward. Here's what you need to do. You need to audit your current income situation. How much are you earning from your primary job? Are you maximizing it? If your salary hasn't increased in the last year, you're losing. Make that your priority for the next 3 months. Get a raise or change jobs and jump your salary. Simultaneously, not after, simultaneously identify your secondary income. What can you build? What service can you provide? What product can you create? What asset can you invest in? Don't overthink this. Don't wait for the perfect idea. Choose something and start. Then commit to it. Not casually. Commit to 5 to 10 hours a week for the next year. No exceptions. That time is protected. It's the difference between your family inheriting struggle and inheriting security. Every month you don't build a secondary income is a month your family doesn't build wealth. You now understand income architecture. You understand that the foundation is not enough. You understand that you need multiple streams. You understand that the time investment is manageable. The only thing left is action. But income alone doesn't create wealth. Income enables the creation of wealth. What actually creates wealth is what you do with that income. What you do with it is the subject of the next chapter. Because income not converted into assets is just a lifestyle. And lifestyle doesn't transfer to the next generation. Chapter 5: Assets that never sleep, building your wealth machine. You've built your income architecture. You have a primary source of income, and you're building a secondary one. You're earning more than you ever have. You feel successful. But here's the hard truth: earning is not the same as building. A doctor earning $300,000 a year can be poorer at age 65 than a teacher earning $50,000 a year if the teacher converts income into assets and the doctor converts income into expenses. That's the gap we're addressing now. This is where income actually becomes wealth. This is where the families that build for 3 generations set themselves apart from those that stay trapped in the cycle. They understand assets. Most people cannot distinguish between an asset and an expense. They think they understand. They claim they do. But when you examine their actual portfolio, you see only consumption disguised as investment. The asset versus expense distinction, this changes everything. An asset puts money in your pocket. Every single month, every single year, the asset produces income without requiring your presence. A property that generates $1,500 a month in rental income, that's an asset. A dividend-paying stock that pays you $50 a month in dividends is an asset. A business that operates without your involvement and generates profit is an asset. An expense takes money out of your pocket. Every month, you pay money to keep it. A car payment. A vacation home mortgage. A boat you enjoy but doesn't produce income. New electronics. Designer clothes. These are not bad things, but they're not assets. They consume. They don't build. The confusion between these two categories is why most people never build wealth. They earn income and immediately convert it into expenses. Then they call it investing in themselves or building their lifestyle to make it feel intentional. An asset puts money in your pocket. An expense takes money out. Your family's wealth depends on knowing the difference. Let me make this specific. You have $30,000. You can make two choices. Choice 1, you buy a car. It's a nice car. Maybe a Honda Accord or a Toyota. You put down $10,000 and finance $20,000. For 5 years, you make $450 payments. At the end of 5 years, the car is worth $12,000. You've spent roughly $33,000, $10,000 down plus $450 x 60 months, and own something worth $12,000. You've lost $21,000. This car depreciates every single day. It's an expense. Choice 2, you put down $30,000 on a $150,000 rental property. You finance the rest. The property generates $1,500 a month in rental income. Your mortgage, insurance, and maintenance costs are roughly $1,100 a month. You net $400 a month. Over the past 5 years, you've generated $24,000 in cash flow. But the property has also appreciated. If it appreciates 3% annually, conservative, the property is now worth $175,000. You've made $24,000 in cash flow plus $25,000 in appreciation, totaling $49,000 in gain on your $30,000 investment. This property appreciates every single day. It's an asset. Same $30,000. One produces a loss. One produces a gain. This is not magic. This is the difference between wealth and average. Most families have no assets. They have expenses. And that's the inheritance they leave. Think about what you own right now. Is your house producing income or consuming it? Is your car producing income or consuming it? Are your electronics producing income or consuming it? If you died tomorrow, what would your family inherit? Possessions or income-producing assets? Most people's answer is possessions. A house with a mortgage. Cars with payments. Things that require ongoing costs. These are not inherited. These are burdens transferred to the next generation. The 3 asset categories that build generational wealth. All generational wealth is built in 3 categories. Wealthy families build in all 3. Poor families build in none. Middle-class families dabble in maybe 1. Category 1, real estate. A rental property appreciates over time. In most markets, real estate appreciates 3 to 4% annually. It generates immediate income through rent. It has tax advantages. You can deduct mortgage interest, property taxes, repairs, and depreciation. It's leveraged. You control a $300,000 asset with $60,000 down. And it's tangible. Your wealth is physical. A single $300,000 property generating $1,500 monthly income is meaningful. But when someone builds a portfolio of 3 to 5 properties, they have $5,000 to $8,000 a month in passive income. That's more than many jobs. And it requires minimal ongoing work. The wealthy don't have 1 rental property. They have 5. They didn't build them all at once. They built them over time, using equity from one to fund the down payment on the next. That's leverage. That's the system. Category 2, dividend-paying stocks and index funds. Stocks are easier to access than real estate. You don't need $60,000 down. You can start with $100. A dividend-paying stock pays you a percentage of the company's profit every quarter. An index fund holds hundreds of stocks and pays you the average dividend of all those companies. The math: $10,000 invested in dividend-paying stocks earning a 4% dividend yield generates $400 per year. That doesn't sound impressive. But $10,000 in dividend stocks also appreciates. If they appreciate at 8% annually, the long-term market average, your $10,000 grows to $23,000 in 10 years. You've gained $13,000 in appreciation and collected roughly $4,000 in dividends during that time. All with zero effort. The money worked while you lived your life. Most people don't build stock portfolios because the returns seem small. They're comparing it to their income from their job, which is immediate and visible. A $10,000 stock portfolio generating $400 a year seems pointless. But that $400 is not worth it. That's money from money. And when you have $100,000 in stocks, that $4,000 a year is meaningful. When you have $1 million in stocks, that $40,000 a year is substantial. Category 3: Business ownership or intellectual property. A business generates profit. That profit is your income without your daily presence if the business is systemized. An online course you create sells for years without you having to deliver it personally. A software you build runs 24/7, generating revenue. A book you write generates royalties for decades. An affiliate relationship you build earns you monthly commissions. This category is powerful because the upside is unlimited. A real estate deal has a ceiling limited by property values in your market and how many properties you can manage. A stock portfolio's return is capped by market performance. But a business can scale infinitely. It can become worth millions. It can be sold. The challenge with this category is execution. Real estate and stocks are passive. You buy and hold. A business requires building. But once built, it's powerful. Diversification is not a suggestion, it's a requirement. Wealthy families build in all three. They're not all in on real estate. They're not all in on stocks. They're not trying to build a business that becomes a unicorn. They're building across all three categories. Why? Because diversification protects them. If the housing market crashes, they still have stock dividends and business income. If the stock market crashes, they still have rental income and business income. If their business fails, they still have real estate and stocks. They're not dependent on any single asset category succeeding. Most people are implicit failures. They have a single source of income, their job, in a single market, their industry. If that fails, everything collapses. Wealthy people have multiple asset categories in multiple markets. If one fails, they're fine. The compounding equation that creates millionaires. Here's the equation that builds generational wealth. It's not complex. It's not new. It's math. $500 a month invested for 30 years at 8% average return. That's $180,000 invested total. But with compound growth, that becomes $1.1 million. The $920,000 difference reflects compound growth. That's not earned. That's multiplication. But start that investor at age 25 instead of 35. Now they're investing for 40 years instead of 30. That same $500 a month becomes $2.2 million. The difference between starting at 25 and starting at 35 is $1.1 million. That's the cost of 10 years. Compounding is your family's most valuable weapon. Every year you delay, you forfeit millions in multi-generational growth. This is why time is your non-renewable resource. This is why waiting is expensive. This is why you need to start building assets now, even if you only have $100 to invest. You have the knowledge now. You understand income architecture. You understand assets. You understand the difference between categories. You understand diversification. The question is, are you going to apply it? Tonight, you need to make two decisions. Decision 1, which asset category will you start with? Real estate? Stocks? A business? Just pick one. Don't wait for the perfect answer. Real estate and stocks are equally valid. Pick one and commit. Decision 2. How much money can you direct toward that asset this month? Not eventually. This month. If it's $100, so be it. If it's $1,000, better. Just decide. That decision activates everything. You're building your wealth machine. You're converting income into assets. You're creating something that works while you sleep. But there's a force working against you, a system designed to extract as much of your wealth as possible before you can convert it into assets. That system is taxes. And in the next chapter, we'll make sure you understand how to navigate it. Chapter 6. The tax system is designed for the ignorant. You're building your income architecture. You're converting income into assets. You're beginning to see how generational wealth gets created. But there's something standing between your income and your assets. Something that takes a significant portion of everything you earn before you ever get the chance to build. That something is taxes. Now, most people think taxes are fixed. You earn money. The government takes its cut. You're left with what remains. That's how it feels. That's how it's designed to feel. But that's not how it actually works for people who understand the system. Taxes are not fixed. Taxes are negotiable for those who understand the rules. The wealthy don't pay less in taxes because they're breaking the law. They pay less because they understand the law. And that understanding is available to you right now. Why you're paying more than necessary. The average person pays taxes without any strategy. They work. Their employer withholds taxes from their paycheck. They file a return once a year. They either get a refund or owe. It's passive. It's unconscious. And it's expensive. Let me show you what this costs. A $100,000 income taxed at 30%, roughly accurate for federal, state, and local combined taxes in many areas, costs $30,000 in taxes. That $30,000 is gone. It's not available to build assets. It's not available to create generational wealth. It's extracted before you ever see it. But what if that same $100,000 income was structured differently? What if you maximized your 401k contribution? What if you opened a health savings account? What if you structured your business as an LLC instead of a sole proprietorship? What if you used strategic timing on when you recognized income? The same $100,000 in income, optimized, might cost only $18,000 in taxes. That's $12,000 that stays in your pocket. That $12,000, over 30 years with compound growth, becomes $500,000 in assets. That's not earned. That's preserved through understanding. Ignorance about taxes costs your family more than any single financial decision you'll make. Think about that. You could work harder and earn an extra $12,000 a year. Or you could work the same and keep an extra $12,000 a year through tax strategy. Same result. Different approach. The wealthy choose the latter. But here's what most people don't realize. This is not hidden. This is not a secret. This is legal. The IRS has published rules. Congress has created tax-advantaged accounts. The wealthy use these tools not because they have special connections, but because they understand they exist. You're about to understand they exist too. The accounts and strategies wealthy families use. Let me list the tools. Don't memorize this. Just understand that these tools exist and that understanding them changes everything. A 401k is an employer-sponsored retirement account. You contribute up to $23,500 per year as of 2024, and that contribution is tax-deductible. You don't pay taxes on that $23,500 immediately. You pay taxes when you withdraw it in retirement. But here's the strategy. If you're in a high tax bracket now and will be in a lower tax bracket in retirement, you save money overall. An IRA, or individual retirement account, allows you to contribute $7,000 per year as of 2024 and deduct it from your income. Same concept as a 401k, but for the self-employed or those without a 401k. A health savings account is remarkable. You contribute money tax-free, you can withdraw it tax-free for medical expenses, and if you don't use it, it rolls over forever. It's the only account where contributions are deductible, growth is tax-free, and withdrawals are tax-free. Most people with HSA-eligible health plans don't use them. The wealthy max them out. A solo 401k allows self-employed people to contribute both as an employee and as an employer, often doubling the contribution limits. A freelancer earning $100,000 can contribute $50,000 plus to a solo 401k, which an employee earning $100,000 cannot. A SEPIRA allows self-employed people to contribute up to 25% of their net income as a tax-deductible contribution. More flexibility, more tax savings. A self-directed IRA allows you to invest your retirement funds directly in real estate, businesses, and precious metals, not just stocks and bonds. Most people don't realize this is possible, so they use traditional IRAs and miss out on significant investment opportunities. An LLC, or limited liability company, is a business structure that can offer tax advantages for self-employed people and business owners. Income is passed through to your personal tax return at potentially lower tax rates than corporate structures. Charitable giving strategies, income timing strategies, depreciation strategies, and cost segregation analysis are specialized, but they all do the same thing: they legally reduce taxable income. Wealthy families don't pay less in taxes because they're breaking the law. They pay less because they understand the law. You can too. The difference between you and a wealthy family is not intelligence. It's not connections. It's simply knowledge and action. They know these tools exist. They use them. They save substantial money. You don't know. You don't use them. You overpay. This is not an opinion. This is measurable. A $100,000 income with zero tax strategy costs roughly $30,000 in taxes. The same $100,000 income with basic strategy maxing a 401k, opening an HSA, operating as an LLC if self-employed, costs roughly $18,000 to $20,000. That's a $10,000 to $12,000 annual difference. That's $120,000 to $144,000 over 10 years. That's wealth being extracted from your family because you didn't understand the rules. But understanding the rules is not something you need to do alone. Action step: get expert help this month. This is critical. Most people try to navigate taxes on their own and end up costing themselves thousands. They file their own taxes to save on preparation costs. They end up losing money they could have kept through a proper strategy. You need to hire a tax strategist, a CPA, or a tax professional who specializes in building wealth, not just filing annual returns. Not an accountant who does your taxes. A strategist who designs your year around tax optimization. Here's the reality: a good tax strategist costs $2,000 to $5,000 per year. That seems expensive until you realize they save you $10,000 to $15,000 per year. They pay for themselves many times over. And the savings compound. Every dollar saved in taxes goes directly to assets. Over 30 years, that's substantial wealth. Most people won't do this. They'll keep filing their own taxes. They'll keep overpaying. They'll justify it by saying, "I can't afford a CPA." But affording a CPA is exactly what keeps you wealthy. Not affording one is what keeps you average. This is not about loopholes. This is about using the legal system designed to benefit you. The tax code is 70,000 plus pages. It's not designed to be understood by the average person. It's designed to be navigated by professionals. Wealthy families don't try to navigate it themselves. They hire someone to navigate it for them. That's what separates them from average. You need to make a decision. Decision 1. Will you hire a tax professional this year? Not eventually. This year. Make that commitment. Interview 2 to 3 CPAs who specialize in wealth building. Decision 2. Which tax-advantaged accounts apply to your situation? If you have a job, max your 401k and open an HSA. If you're self-employed, open a solo 401k or a SEP IRA. If you have a side business, structure it as an LLC. Don't overthink this. Pick one and execute. Your taxes are either your family's biggest expense or your biggest opportunity. Which will you choose? You now understand taxes. You understand they're not fixed. You understand that optimization is legal and available. But there's another area where most people misunderstand the rules. That area is debt. Most people think all debt is bad. Most people are wrong. Debt is a tool. And learning to use it properly is the difference between building slowly and building fast. Chapter 7. Debt is a tool, not a destiny. You've learned about income architecture. You've learned about assets. You've learned about tax optimization. Now we're going to talk about something that scares most people, debt. And I'm going to tell you something that contradicts everything you've been taught. Not all debt is equal. Some debt destroys families. Some debt builds them. You must learn the difference immediately, because this distinction determines whether you remain poor or become wealthy. Most people were taught that all debt is bad. Stay out of debt. Pay off your mortgage as soon as possible. Never borrow money. These messages are everywhere. They come from well-meaning people. They come from financial institutions. They come from a cultural narrative. And they're incomplete. Here's the truth. Debt is an amplifier. It amplifies your mistakes and your victories. Master it, and it accelerates wealth. Fear it, and it keeps you poor. The debt hierarchy: what kills families versus what builds them. Not all debt is created equal. There's a clear hierarchy. At the top is debt that destroys. At the bottom is debt that builds. You need to understand where your debt falls in this hierarchy because your strategy changes completely depending on the type. Destructive debt, credit card debt. Credit card debt is pure destruction. Interest rates of 15 to 25% annually. Minimum payments that barely cover interest. Balance transfers that reset rates after promotional periods. This debt is designed to trap you. The credit card company profits from your inability to pay it off. If you have credit card debt, this must be your priority. Eliminate it. Aggressively. Before you do anything else. Pay more than the minimum. Cut expenses if necessary. Work a side gig if necessary. The longer you carry credit card debt, the more it costs. A $10,000 balance at 20% interest costs roughly $2,000 per year in interest alone. That's not paying down the balance. That's just paying interest. You're losing money every single month. This is not strategic. This is a failure. Expensive debt, auto loans. Auto loans are an expensive form of consumption. Interest rates of 5 to 8%, depending on your credit. A $30,000 car with a $600 monthly payment for 5 years. After 5 years, you've paid $36,000, but the car is worth $12,000. You've spent $36,000 and own something worth $12,000. That's $24,000 in pure loss. But you're only aware of the $600 payment. You're not thinking about the total cost. This is not to say you can't have a car. You can. But the car should be paid off quickly, or you should buy used and keep payments low. The wealthy don't have car payments. They drive paid-off vehicles. The money they would have spent on a car payment goes to assets. Strategic debt, mortgage debt. Now we shift. A mortgage is strategic debt. It's 3 to 5% interest on an appreciating asset. In most markets, real estate appreciates 3 to 4% annually. So you're borrowing at 4%, and the asset is appreciating at 3 to 4%. The math is tight, but more importantly, the property generates income through rental or builds equity through appreciation. A $300,000 property with a $60,000 down payment means you control $300,000 of assets with $60,000 of capital. Your return is calculated on your $60,000, not the $300,000. So if the property appreciates 3% annually, that's $9,000 in appreciation on your $60,000 investment. That's a 15% return on your capital, not 3%. That's leverage. That's strategy. Strategic debt, business loans. A business loan is a form of debt used to generate income. You borrow $50,000 to start a business that generates $200,000 in annual revenue with $100,000 in profit. The $50,000 debt costs you 8% interest at $4,000 annually. But you're generating $100,000 in profit. The debt is trivial compared to the income it enabled. This is how the wealthy think about debt. Not I owe $50,000, but this $50,000 enabled me to generate $100,000 in profit. Debt is a tool that generates income. Debt is an amplifier. It amplifies your mistakes and your victories. Here's the critical insight. Debt amplifies your decisions. If you use debt to buy a depreciating asset that generates no income, debt amplifies your loss. The loss is larger because debt was involved. If you use debt to buy an appreciating asset that generates income, debt amplifies your gain. The gain is larger because debt was involved. Most people use debt to amplify their mistakes. They borrow to buy cars, electronics, vacations, and things that don't generate income. The debt makes the mistake larger. This is why most people fear debt. They've only experienced it amplifying losses. But the wealthy use debt to amplify victories. They borrow to buy income-producing assets. The debt makes the victory larger. This is why wealthy people are comfortable with debt. They've only experienced it amplifying gains. If you don't understand debt, you don't understand wealth. A person earning $50,000 a year with zero debt but zero assets is not wealthier than a person earning $50,000 a year with $200,000 in real estate equity generating $1,000 a month in income, even though the second person has debt. The first person has security. The second person has wealth. Those are different things. Real example, person A earns $60,000. No debt. No assets. Saves carefully and accumulates $50,000 in savings over 5 years. At 5% interest, that $50,000 generates $2,500 in annual returns. Person B earns $60,000. Takes out a $200,000 mortgage, strategic debt, using $40,000 of their savings as a down payment. The property generates $1,500 a month in positive cash flow. Over the past 5 years, person B has paid down the mortgage by roughly $30,000 in principal and generated $90,000 in cash flow. Total wealth gain, $120,000. Person A, $52,500, savings plus interest. Person B, $120,000. Person B used debt strategically. Person A avoided debt. Strategic leverage. How the wealthy use other people's money. This is the principle that separates the average from the wealthy. The wealthy never build wealth with only their own money. They use banks, investors, and strategic debt to multiply their impact. You have $50,000. You can either 1. Save it and invest it in stocks. 2. Use it as a down payment on a $250,000 real estate portfolio. Option 1. $50,000 in stocks earning 8% annually. After 10 years, you have $108,000. That's $58,000 in gain. Option 2. $50,000 down on 5 $50,000 properties. Each property appreciates 3% annually and generates $400 per month in positive cash flow. After 10 years, each property is worth $67,000, 3% annual appreciation. You've paid down the mortgage by roughly $15,000 per property. You've collected $48,000 in cash flow over 10 years. Total value, $82,000 in equity per property times 5 equals $410,000 in equity, plus $48,000 in cash collected. That's $458,000 in total wealth. That's $408,000 in gain from the same $50,000. Same capital. Debt makes the difference massive. The key, the debt is on appreciating assets that generate income. Your money is your starting point. Other people's money is your accelerator. This is how generational wealth is built. Not from earning more and saving it. From using leverage to control more assets than your capital would normally allow. The debt is not the problem. The debt is the solution. But debt only works if you're using it on the right assets. This is why you cannot borrow for consumption. This is why credit card debt destroys, and mortgage debt builds. The asset determines the outcome. The debt you avoid determines your freedom. Consumer debt, borrowing to buy depreciating items, is the enemy. This includes car loans for luxury vehicles, credit card spending on goods and experiences, and personal loans for lifestyle expenses. These destroy wealth. Avoid them completely. Strategic debt, borrowing to buy appreciating assets or income-generating vehicles, is a tool. This includes mortgages on investment properties, revenue-generating business loans, and leverage for acquiring income-producing assets. These build wealth. Use them strategically. This distinction determines whether your children inherit freedom or obligation. A family with $500,000 in assets but $400,000 in consumer debt is poor. A family with $500,000 in assets and $400,000 in strategic business debt is wealthy. Same assets. Different debt. Completely different outcomes. Stop fearing debt. Start understanding it. Your family's wealth depends on the difference. You now understand debt hierarchy. You understand that not all debt is equal. You understand strategic leverage. The question is, will you use this knowledge? If you have consumer debt, your immediate action is clear: eliminate it. Use income to pay it down. Work a side job to accelerate the payoff. Cut expenses if necessary. But eliminate it. This is priority one. If you have zero debt but also zero assets, your action is different. Strategically take on debt to acquire assets. That could be a mortgage on a rental property. That could be a business loan. That could be leveraging credit strategically to acquire income-generating assets. The debt scares you. That's the system working. The wealthy are comfortable with strategic debt because they've seen it build their wealth. You'll become comfortable with it, too, as you use it correctly. You've now learned the major systems: income architecture, assets, taxes, and debt. You understand how they work individually. But they only create generational wealth when they work together, generationally. That requires something most people never do: teaching. Teaching your children the system before you leave them money. That's the subject of the next chapter. Chapter 8. Teach your children before you leave them money. You've built your income streams. You've accumulated assets. You've optimized your taxes. You've used debt strategically. You're on your way to building substantial wealth. But here's what stops generational wealth from actually becoming generational. Most families never teach their children how it was built. They teach them nothing. They built for 40 years. They accumulate $2 million. They die. Their children inherit $2 million and a complete lack of understanding about how to maintain it. And within 5 to 10 years, that $2 million is gone. Completely gone. Not from bad luck. From ignorance. This is not a theory. This is documented. Studies show that 70% of wealthy families lose their wealth by the second generation. 70%. That's not because the children are lazy or stupid. It's because they didn't understand how the wealth was built. Knowledge was not transferred. Only money was. And money inherited without knowledge is a curse disguised as a gift. Money inherited without knowledge is a curse disguised as a gift. Think about what happens. A family works 40 years and builds $2 million. The parents never talked to their kids about money. The kids grew up watching their parents earn and spend without understanding the underlying principles. Then the parents die, and suddenly the kids have $2 million. What happens next is predictable. Without understanding that $2 million was built on discipline and delayed gratification, the kids see it as permission to spend freely at last. They upgrade their lifestyle. They help family members. They make generous gifts. They invest in ventures they don't understand. They hire financial advisors who are incentivized to move money around to generate fees. Within a few years, the $2 million is $1 million. Then $500,000. Then it's gone. The children were not incompetent. They simply didn't know the principles that built the wealth. They didn't understand that wealth is not about how much money you have. Wealth is about understanding money. Wealth is about discipline. Wealth is about delayed gratification. Wealth is about converting income into assets instead of experiences. These principles are learned through watching and doing, not through receiving money. Most families don't teach these principles. So the principles die with the parents. And the wealth dies with them. The knowledge transfer that matters more than the money. Your children don't need you to leave them rich. They need you to teach them how to become rich. That's the only inheritance that lasts. Here are the specific principles your children must understand before they ever receive money from you. Principle 1. Income architecture. Your children need to understand that income is not destiny. A person earning $40,000 can be wealthier than a person earning $200,000 if they understand that income must be diversified. Your children need to see you building a secondary income. They need to understand why you do it. They need to understand the math of how a secondary income that starts small compounds into substantial wealth. Don't keep this hidden. Show them. Tell them, I earn money from my job. But I'm also building a freelance business that generates $2,000 a month. That $2,000 goes to assets, not lifestyle. That's how our family builds wealth. Not from more job income, but from income that's captured and invested. Let them see the business grow. Let them understand that it requires upfront work but becomes easier as it scales. Let them understand that income is not fixed. Income is a skill. Income is something you build. Principle 2. Asset distinction. Your children need to understand the difference between assets and expenses in their actual lives. Not in lectures. In decisions. Show them when you're buying an asset. Explain it. Show them when you're avoiding an expense. Explain it. Real example, you're considering a new car. Walk your child through your decision. This car costs $30,000. I could buy it with the cash I've saved. But I could also invest that $30,000 in real estate that generates $600 a month in income. That income would compound over 30 years to $500,000 or more. So instead, I'm buying a used car for $12,000 and investing the other $18,000. You can have nice things, but only after you have assets. That's the priority. Let them see you choosing delayed gratification. Let them understand it's not deprivation. It's a strategy. It's prioritization. It's building freedom instead of immediate comfort. Principle 3. Delayed gratification. This is psychological. Your children grow up in a culture that glorifies immediate gratification. Buy now, pay later. Spend to feel good. Upgrade immediately. Their friends have new phones, so they should have new phones. This is the narrative. You need to be a counter-narrative. You need to model delayed gratification. And you need to explain it. I could buy an expensive car today, but I'm waiting until my business generates enough income that the car is a small purchase, almost free money. Then I'll get something nice. Until then, this car is fine. Our family is building something larger than cars. We're building freedom. Your children need to see you pass up immediate pleasure for long-term gain. They need to see it repeatedly until they internalize the principle. Not because you're deprived, but because you understand compounding. Principle 4. Business thinking. Most people work for others. Your children should understand how to work for themselves, or at least how business works. What creates value? How do businesses make money? What's profit? What's a customer? What's an asset in business? Don't assume they'll learn this in school. They won't. Business is something you learn by doing or by observation. Involve your children in your business. Ask them for input. Show them your financials. Let them understand how you generate revenue, cover costs, and capture profit. If you own a business, let them see the real numbers. Not to burden them, but to educate them. We made $500,000 in revenue this year, but we spent $350,000 in costs. That leaves $150,000 in profit. That profit becomes our family's assets and our family's security. Principle 5. Resilience. Your children need to see you face financial challenges and overcome them. They need to see you make mistakes and recover. They need to understand that wealth is not about never falling. It's about getting up more times than you fall. Tell them about your financial struggles. Tell them about the investment that lost money. Tell them about the business that failed. Tell them about how you recovered. This teaches them that failure is not destiny. Failure is information. Failure is a step on the path to success. Starting the conversation and never stopping it. You don't wait until your children are adults to have money conversations. You start young. Age 5 is not too young to understand that mommy works to earn money to buy food. Age 8 is not too young to see basic investing. Age 12 is not too young to understand the difference between assets and expenses. Age 16 is not too young to understand compound growth. These conversations should evolve as they age, but they should never stop. By the time your children are adults, they should completely understand your wealth-building strategy. They should know what you own. They should know why you made those decisions. They should be able to explain to their own children how their grandparents built wealth. This is knowledge transfer. This is what separates families that lose wealth in one generation from families that build it over 3 generations. Your children don't need you to leave them rich. They need you to teach them how to become rich. Here's your action step. Pick one of your children. Pick a specific financial principle: income architecture, asset distinction, delayed gratification, business thinking, or resilience. Have a conversation this week. Not a lecture. A conversation. Share something real. Share why this principle matters to you. Ask them what they think. Then make it regular. Monthly financial conversations. Show them your portfolio. Show them your income. Show them your investments. Answer their questions. Let them see the behind-the-scenes operation of building wealth. Your children will not inherit an unlimited amount of money. Most families don't have that kind of wealth. But they can inherit something more valuable: understanding. They can inherit the blueprint. They can inherit the knowledge to build their own wealth. And that inheritance lasts forever. You've now learned the systems. You've learned how to build. You've learned how to teach. But there's one more barrier between you and actually executing this system. That barrier is psychological. It's the temptation to quit before you win. It's the invisible years when you're working but seeing no progress. It's the moment when most people abandon the system and go back to average. That's what we're addressing next. Chapter 9. The Psychology of Persistence. Why most people quit before they win. You understand the system now. You understand income architecture. You understand assets. You understand taxes and debt. You understand how to teach your children. You have the complete blueprint for building generational wealth. You're ready to execute. But here's what's going to happen. You're going to start building. You're going to feel motivated. You're going to take action. And then somewhere between month 3 and month 18, you're going to feel something dangerous. Nothing. You'll be investing consistently, but your net worth barely moves. You'll be building a side business, but growth is invisible. You'll be purchasing assets, but appreciation is slow. Meanwhile, the world around you is loud. Your friends are taking vacations. Your coworkers are upgrading their cars. Your social media feed is full of people enjoying their lives. And you're here, working extra hours, sacrificing, investing money that you can't see growing. This is the invisible years. This is where wealth is actually built. And this is where 90% of people quit. Wealth is built in the years when no one is watching. Most people quit in year 3 because they can't see year 30. Let me be direct about what's going to happen to you. Year 1, you feel excited. You start your side business. You open an investment account. You buy your first rental property. You tell people about it. They're skeptical, but you're energized. Momentum is there. In year 2, the novelty has worn off. Your side business is generating $500 a month. That's not life-changing. Your investments are up 5%. That feels pointless. Your rental property is generating positive cash flow, but the appreciation is invisible. You're tired. You're working 50 hours a week instead of 40. You're sacrificing weekends. And what do you have to show for it? Not much. Not visibly. Year 3, you're at a crossroads. You can keep going, knowing that the real compounding hasn't started yet. Or you can quit, tell yourself that this wealth-building thing is not for you, and go back to normal. Most people quit here. They quit at exactly the moment when they're closest to a breakthrough. But that's not going to be you. Because you're going to understand what's actually happening in those invisible years. The math of invisible progress. When you start investing $500 a month, the account grows to $500 in month 1. You invest another $500 in month 2, bringing the total to $1,000. Month 3, total is $1,500. After 12 months, you have $6,000 invested. The growth looks linear. It looks like nothing. But compound growth is not linear. It's exponential. It's invisible at first. Then it accelerates. Here's what happens if you stay consistent. Year 1, $6,000 invested, roughly $250 in gains. Total, $6,250. Year 2, $12,000 invested, roughly $750 in gains. Total, $12,750. Year 3, $18,000 invested, roughly $1,500 in gains. Total, $19,500. Year 4, $24,000 invested, roughly $2,500 in gains. Total, $26,500. Year 5, $30,000 invested, roughly $4,000 in gains. Total, $34,000. In year 1, you don't see gains. In years 2 and 3, you barely see gains. But in years 4 and 5, gains become real. In year 10, you're getting $15,000 plus in annual gains from compound growth alone, without adding new money. That's income from money. That's the point where wealth accelerates. But if you quit in year 3, you never reach year 4. You never see the acceleration. You never experience the moment when compound growth becomes real. The momentum year, year 5 to 7, when everything accelerates. There is a specific year when everything changes. For most people, building wealth consistently is between years 5 and 7. Suddenly, progress is visible. Suddenly, the math works. Suddenly, you can see the trajectory. By year 5 of consistent building, your side business might be generating $3,000 to $5,000 a month with systems in place that don't require your constant attention. Your investment portfolio has grown to $50,000 plus and is generating meaningful returns. Your rental properties have appreciated and are generating income. The numbers move fast now. But here's what's critical. The person who built a side business from $0 to $1,000 a month by year 2 did not quit. They kept going. They refined systems. They improved processes. They reached year 5, and suddenly they had $5,000 a month. The person who quit at year 2, who thought $500 to $1,000 a month was not worth the effort, will never reach year 5. They'll never see the acceleration. They'll go back to normal and spend 40 years wondering why wealth didn't come their way. Wealth is not built in years. It's built in decades. Most people plan for years. This is the fundamental difference between the average and the wealthy. Average people think in terms of years. They think, I'll try this side business for a year and see if it works. Wealthy people think in terms of decades. They think, I'm building this side business for 30 years. By year 5, I expect significant income. By year 10, I expect systems that work without me. By year 30, I expect this to be a multi-million-dollar revenue generator. The time scale changes everything. With a 1-year time scale, $1,000 a month seems pointless. With a 30-year time scale, $1,000 a month in year 1, growing to $10,000 a month in year 10, is the beginning of generational wealth. Most people quit because they're playing the wrong game. They're playing the one-year game. They're asking, is this worth my time right now? Instead of, is this worth my time over 30 years? Your moment of decision. You're going to face this decision. You're going to reach year 2 or year 3. You're going to feel tired. You're going to see minimal progress. You're going to see your friends with more free time, less stress, and a more balanced lifestyle. And you're going to have a choice. Choice 1, quit. Go back to normal. Tell yourself that building wealth is for other people. Tell yourself you gave it your best shot. Tell yourself the system doesn't work. This is the choice that feels easier immediately. This is the choice that the majority makes. Choice 2, continue. Understand that you're exactly where you need to be. Understand that progress is invisible but real. Understand that you're at the beginning of exponential growth, not linear growth. Understand that the discomfort you feel right now is the same discomfort every wealthy person has felt. This is the choice that feels harder in the short term but changes everything in the long term. The moment you quit is 1 year before momentum begins. This is not hyperbole. This is the actual pattern. The person who quits at year 3 would have experienced momentum in year 4 or year 5 if they'd continued. The person who quits at year 5 would have experienced significant acceleration in year 6 or 7 if they'd continued. I'm not saying it's impossible to quit and restart. You can quit and restart. But every time you quit, you lose the momentum. You lose the compounding. You lose the invisible growth that's happening. You start over from zero. The wealthy don't quit. They have moments where they want to quit. They have moments of doubt. They have moments where they consider a different path. But they push through. They understand that the invisible years are where the real work happens. They understand that everyone quits when it gets hard. That's why so few people build wealth. The discomfort you feel right now is the system working. Here's something counterintuitive. The discomfort you'll feel in year 2 and year 3 is actually a sign that the system is working. It's a sign that you're doing something different than everyone around you. It's a sign that you've exited the normal path. That discomfort is the price of exiting the average. If building wealth felt comfortable, everyone would do it. Everyone would have substantial assets. Everyone would be secure. But most people don't. Most people stay average because the average path is comfortable. It requires no sacrifice. It requires no extra work. It requires no delayed gratification. The wealthy path is uncomfortable. It requires working 50 hours a week instead of 40. It requires saying no to experiences your friends are enjoying. It requires watching your money go toward assets rather than lifestyle. It requires trusting the system even when results are invisible. That discomfort is not a sign you're doing something wrong. That discomfort is a sign you're doing something right. That discomfort is the difference between you and everyone else. Your decision right now. Here's the commitment I need you to make. Right now. Before you even start. You are building for 30 years, not 3. You are building for your children, not yourself. You are building because the alternative, staying average, costs more than the sacrifice. Your family cannot wait for your comfort. Your children cannot wait for you to feel ready. In year 2 or year 3, when you feel like quitting, you're going to remember this moment. You're going to remember that you committed to 30 years. You're going to remember that momentum comes in years 5 to 7, not in years 1 to 2. You're going to remember that the people you admire, the people who built generational wealth, did exactly what you're doing right now. And they didn't quit. When you feel like quitting, you're going to write down your numbers. You're going to calculate where you'll be in year 10 if you continue. You're going to see the compounding. You're going to see the asset accumulation. You're going to see your children's inheritance. And you're going to keep going. Because the only thing standing between you and generational wealth is persistence. The only thing that stops you from winning is quitting. And you will not quit. The wealth you build is directly proportional to your willingness to work invisibly. You're done with the systems. You understand income, assets, taxes, debt, and knowledge transfer. You understand the psychology of persistence. You understand that visible progress takes time, but invisible progress is happening every single day. Now you need a blueprint for execution. Now you need to know exactly what to do. Now you need your 90-day challenge. Because knowledge without action is entertainment. This audiobook is about to stop being entertainment and become your blueprint for a different life. Chapter 10. Your blueprint starts now. The 90-day challenge. You've learned everything. You understand the system. You understand the barriers. You understand the psychology. You understand what most people never understand about generational wealth. But understanding is not transformation. Transformation requires action. Transformation requires a decision followed by execution. This chapter is not information. This chapter is your action plan. This is where you move from listening to doing. This is where you commit to change. This is where you become someone different than you were before you listened to this audiobook. Most people will listen to these chapters and feel inspired. They'll feel energized. They'll think, yes, I'm going to do this. Then they'll close the audiobook. They'll go back to their normal life. They'll resume their normal patterns. And within a week, they'll be back to where they started. Nothing will change. Their families will inherit struggle. That's the pattern. You will not be one of them. Not because you're special, but because you're going to make decisions tonight. And you're going to execute on those decisions in the next 90 days. The blueprint condensed. 4 decisions that change everything. Everything you've learned comes down to 4 decisions. 4. Not 10. Not 100. 4 decisions that, if executed, will fundamentally shift your trajectory from average to building generational wealth. These 4 decisions are not complex. They are simple. But simple is hard because it requires discipline. Decision 1. Increase your income by 15% within 90 days. This is non-negotiable. You need more money. Not eventually. In the next 90 days. This means one of 3 things. You get a raise from your current job, you change jobs and jump your salary, or you build your secondary income. The easiest path is usually the secondary income. You start something that generates revenue. It could be freelance work in your field. It could be a service business. It could be affiliate marketing. It could be online content creation. The specific form doesn't matter. What matters is that you generate an additional 15% income within 90 days. If you earn $50,000 a year, that's roughly $625 a month in new income. That's $20 a day. Is it possible for you to generate $20 of value a day in your spare time? Yes. It's not ambitious. It's not complicated. It's just commitment. Some of you will negotiate a raise at your current job. That's good. That's the most secure path. Some of you will interview at other companies. That's also good. Job hopping builds income quickly. But all of you need to increase income. Not next year. In the next 90 days. Knowing the blueprint is worthless. Living the blueprint is everything. These 4 decisions are where you move from knowing to living. Real example. Someone earning $60,000 a year commits to this decision. They can freelance in their field and generate $2,000 a month in side income. That's 40% income increase, not 15%. 30 days of reaching out to clients who've asked about freelance work. 30 days of offering their expertise. They land 2 clients. $2,000 a month. 90 days of action, not years of planning. Decision 2. Open or maximize a tax-advantaged account. If you don't have a 401k, open one. If your employer offers matching, maximize it. That's free money. If you have access to an HSA, open one. If you're self-employed, open a solo 401k or SEP-JARA. If you have none of the above, open a regular IRA. This is not complex. You do not need to understand tax law deeply. You need to take action. Go online tonight. Find the account option for your situation. Start the paperwork. Do not wait. This one action reduces your taxes immediately and forces money into assets instead of lifestyle. This one action compounds over decades into substantial wealth, and it requires maybe 2 hours of your time to execute. Decision 3. Identify and research your first asset within 90 days. You need to own something that produces income or appreciates. Not eventually. Within 90 days. You need to make a decision about what that asset is. Real estate? Dividend stocks? A business? Just choose. For most people, the easiest path is dividend stocks. You can start with $100. You can open a brokerage account online. You can buy dividend-paying ETFs that immediately start producing quarterly income. 90 days of research. 90 days of decision-making. By day 90, you own your first asset. Some of you will choose real estate. That's more complex. But it's not impossible. You can research properties. You can talk to lenders. You can get pre-approved. You don't need to close on a property in 90 days, but you need to have a clear plan and timeline. By day 90, you should know what property you're targeting and have financing pre-approval. The specific asset matters less than the commitment. You're moving from theoretical understanding to actual ownership. You're becoming an asset owner, not just an income earner. Decision 4. Have one financial conversation with your children this month. If you have children, pick one. Sit down with them. Have a real conversation about one financial principle. Show them one of your investments. Explain why you made it. Answer their questions. Make it real. This takes maybe 30 minutes, but it plants a seed. It begins knowledge transfer. It models that financial literacy is important. It shows your children that their parent thinks about money in a different way than most people. If you don't have children, have this conversation with someone you care about. A younger relative. A mentee. Someone who will benefit from seeing someone model financial thinking. Your 30-day checkpoint. After 30 days, you should have completed the first phases of all 4 decisions. You should have either negotiated a raise, changed jobs, or started generating side income. You should have opened your tax-advantaged account. You should have researched your first asset and have a clear plan. You should have had your first financial conversation. Small actions compound. Most people wait for perfection and do nothing. You're taking imperfect action immediately. Imperfect action beats perfect planning every single time. The next 30 days will tell you whether you're building generational wealth or just pretending. That's not judgment. That's clarity. Completion of these 4 decisions in 90 days tells you that you're serious. It tells your brain that you're different. It tells your family that something has changed. Accountability matters. Tell someone about these 4 decisions. Write them down. Commit publicly if you can. This is not pressure. This is activation. This is the difference between knowing and doing. The financial conversation blueprint. Here's a specific conversation to have with your children. You don't need to use these exact words, but use this structure. I want to show you something important. I'm building assets. An asset is something that produces money without me working every day. This is how our family becomes secure. This is how I create a better life for you. Most people work their whole lives and own nothing. We're different. Watch what I'm building. Then show them. Show them an investment account. Show them a rental property listing. Show them your business income. Make it real. Make it visual. Let them understand that this is not theory. It's action. Then ask, what questions do you have? What do you want to understand? Listen. Answer. Plant the knowledge. The next 3 months. These 90 days are going to be the most important 3 months of your financial life. Not because you're going to become wealthy in 90 days. You're not. But because you're going to exit the cycle of intention without action. You're going to prove to yourself that you can move. You're going to see traction. You're going to feel momentum. By day 90, you'll have a secondary income stream. You'll have a tax-optimized account. You'll own your first asset. Your children will understand that you're building something. These 4 things compound over 30 years into generational wealth. By year 5, your secondary income will have multiplied. Your assets will be generating meaningful returns. Your tax strategy will have saved substantial money. Your children will be seeing the blueprint lived out in front of them. By year 30, your family will have inherited not struggle, but security. Not obligation, but opportunity. Not a limited life, but a life of choice. Your family is waiting. The next 3 generations of your family will be determined by the decisions you make in the next 90 days. Not 10 years. Not next year. The next 90 days. This is not pressure. This is clarity. You have a specific window. You have a specific path. You have the blueprint. Now you have a choice. You can close this audiobook and resume your normal life. Your family will inherit struggle. That's the default. That's where average goes. Or you can execute these 4 decisions. Your family will inherit security. That's the alternative. That's where the intentional go. The choice is yours. The time is now. Everything you need to know, you know. Everything you need to do, you know. The only thing left is execution. You have 90 days. 4 decisions. 1 family legacy. You now have the blueprint. Generational wealth is not an accident. It is not inheritance. It is a system income architecture, asset accumulation, knowledge transfer, tax strategy, strategic debt, and psychological persistence. You have all 4. You understand what separates families that build for 3 generations from families that stay trapped in the cycle of earning and spending. But understanding is not enough. Millions of people understand and do nothing. They listen to this audiobook and feel inspired for a day. Then they go back to normal. They watch their lives repeat their parents' pattern. They watch their children repeat their parents' pattern. Do not be one of them. In the next 24 hours, make 1 decision. Just 1. Not all 4. 1. Increase your income by 15% or open a tax-advantaged account. Research your first asset or have a conversation with your children. 1 decision. That decision will compound. That decision will accelerate. That decision will mean that 3 generations from now, your descendants will not struggle, but inherit freedom. Not obligation, but opportunity. Not a limited life, but a life of choice. The blueprint is in your hands. The decision is yours. 30 generations from now, your descendants will either thank you or wonder why you knew and did nothing.